This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/NuclearRevenge. Our first story of today is, park in our disabled spot, enjoy selling your home. So my little sister, who is the sweetest girl in the world, is 12 years old but can't walk or communicate. Her mental age is around 6 months. She obviously cannot attend a regular school, but since we live in a big city, there is a wonderful school for kids like her. Even though we don't own a car, since we don't need one, we got the city to put up signs in front of our house designating a 4-meter spot for wheelchair pickup and drop off for her school bus every morning and afternoon. The signs went up perhaps 2 years ago, and after the first week we never really had any issues since most of our neighbors are wonderful and totally understanding of our designated spot. For some context, we live in a perhaps poorer community, though we're well off, but in our 9 years here, we've had nothing but great interactions with everyone here. Sadly, the neighborhood is gentrifying and we're getting more self-centered people with their Mercedes-Benz or Audis honking while my sister gets loaded onto her school bus, which takes around 4 minutes, but blocks our little street, which really pisses us off, as well as the other sane people that witness it. Naively, we thought this would be the extent of our unpleasant interactions. In September, we woke up like on any other Monday morning to find a shiny BMW parked in our disabled spot. It wasn't just partially in it, it was positioned perfectly to take up the entire spot. To make things worse, there were about a dozen open spots on the block, and it's not like they were all vacated that morning since we wake up at 6 a.m. We were baffled. I'd seen this car many times since last July, and it was definitely the same car, since there aren't many burgundy sports cars in our neighborhood. It was usually parked about 20 meters south on our street, so we knew it belonged to a neighbor a few doors down. We did all the basics in this type of situation. We took a picture, took down the license plate and called the police to report it. The cops came by within the hour and wrote a big fat ticket. I believe it was for $700, but don't quote me on it. Anyways, it was a significant amount. At around noon, a smug angry guy came knocking on my door. I had the day off from school and was home on my own. It was obvious that it was the owner of the car, so I made a quick decision to record the conversation, or screaming match, on my phone. I opened the door and before I could say a thing, the beep lays into me. I'm a 16-year-old guy and he's in his mid-40s, midlife crisis maybe. He accuses me of all things ranging from putting up those signs this morning to frame him to being racist. He was East Asian I believe, but we have a really diverse community. He goes on to say that disabled spots shouldn't even be a thing, that it's always empty, totally shooting himself in the foot based on his previous comments, that we should pay for his undeserved ticket, that it isn't even an inconvenience since the spot next to his was free and my sister could just get on the bus from there, blah blah blah. Once he finished, I said okay, and shut the door on his furious face. He rang the doorbell another 5 times before storming off. To my satisfaction, the recording caught everything fairly clearly. In the evening, I told my parents what had happened and gave my dad a copy of the recording. We have a pretty tight-knit community for the most part, and there is a neighborhood Facebook group with around 3,000 members. My dad decided to post a summary of what had happened along with the recording and a picture of the car in our spot on the page. There was immediate uproar with people saying they would fight back or whatever. We were humbled by the feeling that our community was standing up for us, but we didn't think anything would come of it. The next day, I leave the house to go to school and walk by the guy's car, back in his normal spot, and notice that the front right tire was deflated. Upon closer inspection, it was slashed. As I said, our community is tight-knit, but I can't say I expected anything like this to happen. The guy must have seen the Facebook post, because he didn't come back to our house to complain or accuse us of anything. The following weeks were sweet. Whenever I saw him in public, people would go up to him and remind him that he was a BP human being, a bit harsh in my opinion, but they weren't my words. In November, his house had a for sale sign in the window. The house market had also gone down by a bit. I'm always kind of curious about how much houses similar to ours are selling for compared to how much we paid for ours in 2011, so I knew what he paid for it in July. Once I saw the for sale sign, I rushed home and checked the local house listings, and lo and behold, he was selling for $90,000 less than what it was going for in July. He really wanted to get out of our neighborhood. While his crime wasn't nearly worth $90,000, I must say that I don't feel bad. Worst case scenario, he sells that obnoxious car of his, which would easily cover the lost money. Let's just say that we haven't had a single car parked in my sister's spot since. Our second story of today is, the time my dad's friends crushed a guy's hands for harming me. Context: my dad has earned a lot of respect in our local area as he will always help his friends with anything they need, so without exaggeration there are a fairly large number of regulars at our local pub that would happily do the same for him. And I mean it, as they would most likely happily go to prison to look after my parent, my sister and me. Anyways, I do a lot of walking, both when home and at uni, and I was walking through our local park at home and I noticed someone following me. Basically I'm more or less bricking it as I'm not willing to get my phone out in case he takes it and I'm in the least populated area of the park where we are the only two people. I decide to speed up so that hopefully more people will act as a deterrent. The guy starts talking bull beep to me saying he needs help as his brother got stabbed. I knew he was talking rubbish as he was perfectly calm and relaxed and I walked past him 2 minutes ago chatting with his mate. I tell him to leave me alone and he kicks out at me taking my legs away and making me basically land with my full weight on my left knee. God, that hurt when my adrenaline ran out. I got up because I didn't want to be kicked to a pulp and made my way over to a dog walker who had just entered this area of the park. He allowed me to get to the cafe where I called my sister. She and my mum come pick me up from there and took me home. I put an ice pack on my ankle because him booting it as hard as he could, made it bend wrong, could still use it so knew it was fine. Anyways, my mum called my dad who was at the pub with his mates, the ones who are willing to do anything to keep my sister and I safe. My mum relayed a very basic description from me to him and not long later, he was home due to worry. My ankle kept seizing up by sitting on the sofa, so I got up and helped my mum with dinner. At this point, it seizing up was more painful than standing. While helping, I went to get something from the fridge. Our fridge is in the lounge right next to the kitchen but not actually in the kitchen, and my dad pulled me aside and said that his friends had caught up to the guy that did it and got revenge for me. They asked if he had gotten into an altercation with someone in the park. He said yes and they threw him to the ground, stomped on his hands and phone and threw his earphones down the drain. Fallout. Every time I walk through that park, especially that bit of it which I've only gone through twice in nearly 3 months, I get irrationally nervous and pay extreme amounts of attention to everyone I see. Never saw him again though. I have also been left with a knee that hurts every now and then, as well as if I accidentally bend it in certain ways that are usually fine. Again, I'm not worried about it as, while at uni, I walk nearly 10 miles a day and only occasionally need to stop to let it rest. Moral of this story: don't beep with people if you don't think you can deal with a group of alcohol-fueled Londoners who are protective of your victim and his family. Our third and last story of today is, Contractor stole my money, so I destroyed his reputation. So basically, I hired a contractor. He stole $18,000 from me. Tried going to court, but got screwed because his business is an illegal one and his name isn't attached to it. So he got off scot-free. I was furious, because it was all my savings. So I started hunting the internet for revenge ideas, and I found one. I drafted up official-looking letters that didn't actually say they were from the government, wasn't about to beep around with government fraud. Posters. Basically as much paper as I could get my hands on. I took a photo of him and shopped it to look like a mugshot. And on all these papers, I put the photo, and a warning that this man was a child molester and on a sex offender registry. Then I sent the letters to his entire neighborhood. I put the posters up. I plastered this guy's face as a child molester everywhere I could. I had multiple ways I made sure it couldn't trace to me. Everyone believed it. People don't double-check things, let alone when they think kids are in danger. His entire neighborhood rallied against him. He stopped getting jobs. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. They took the warning, looked at this big closed-off guy, and ran with it. He would up committing suicide months later. Couldn't handle it. I know, I'm not a good guy in this and I went a bit too far. I'm still glad I did it. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.